All right, I believe all of you know Mr. Fred Lyssy. He's going to share with us about his journey of following the Lord through agriculture, I think.
Yeah.
Well, following the Lord. You got the first part right.
Yes. I guess a little bit what I'm going to say is something I think is really important, something that I've tried to bring to church groups many times, which I think Matt stated one time, where um, agriculture also, it's the culture of the land, it's the food, it's everything, but there's also the spiritual side. But I've never been really allowed to say anything. I think we're more open to that nowadays, because before I'd always be accused of environmentalist or something, that I'm doing something wrong. Like, that's not important. The spirit's important. Um, but I think that God wants a lot more for us than just a healthy spirit. And I think the end goal, obviously, is beauty all in abundance. So I'm going to try to wrap up some things, but it's not going to be just about agriculture. I'm trying to bring it in with Scripture. Um, One thing, I guess, to get this with me, where I'm kind of going with this, is that one thing that's changed in my life is through this journey, especially coming here, and already knowing, like, I guess the Spirit's telling me some things, but there's like religion still telling me some stuff. It kind of clarified to me that um, I play a bigger role than what I was taught to believe. I was supposed to like step aside and wait for the Lord to do it for us. If y'all understand that, part of that's like with revelations and waiting, but He's waiting for us to do things. So get to creation. Like in Genesis, he says, what does he say? He says we're supposed to rule over, and he says the world is good. It's very good, and of course we kind of messed up. We ate from the tree of life. And if you go into Psalms 15, 16, to say basically the same thing. What did I say to get it right? The heavens belong to the Lord, but the earth he has given to humankind. So he's given that to us. So when I think about like disasters in agriculture, sickness and disease and all that stuff, and we try to blame it on him many times, and I think Matt's cleared that up, like that's not him. But reality, if we told God like, hey, why is all this here? It'd be like, I've given you the world. This is up to you. So I want to point out a few things that you might be familiar with in statistics of things in the world. I guess it might be important to kind of clarify some of the deception. And you're probably familiar with some of these things, but start with food in North America. Majority of farmers on the brink of losing everything they own. They're number 3 on depression and suicide, top 3. Americans are the sickest world in the nation. Well, I don't know if you have heard, and we take the most pharmaceuticals per capita, put the most money into it as well. We actually have to create some of the best food America grows actually goes to other countries because they ban a lot of the stuff that we use here. I'm saying a lot. I shouldn't be doing that. I haven't talked for a while. Not with a speaker anyways. So one of the questions, what is our role as sons of God? Matt, correct me. I mean, something John 10:10, that's the Psalm of the Good Shepherd. And it says in there something about Satan is trying to get into a different door. He's not coming the same doors. Jesus is coming straight in. But John 10:10 says that the thief will come to kill and destroy. But the Lord's come there. Jesus is there with life, abundant life. So I want to point out, just like my journey, like growing up as a Catholic and all the deception and holding me back, to really understand who I was, I had to like get rid of that religion. So I want people to be extremely healthy. I want to be healthier than I am right now. I want the world and creation to be healthy, to be thriving. So I want to point out some of the deception that, and I had a huge list. I picked out a few, and I'm just kind of pick a couple and watch my time. So this is kind of based on our physical bondage. But one thing I found, and I don't know if you'll, well, I think you would agree with me. And this is a big subject. It's something to hear when farmers are getting together, not just talking about farming, but I'm watching conferences, and now they're getting together saying, can we continue? And we're watching to see where we've gone and figuring out that if we look at, people have been blaming it on themselves like we do, but we look, this has been deliberately done. And one of the things that was brought up to me, I didn't even know about this, but I've seen a lot of things since the time I've been around, like things they've done when farmers started to know better and they put us back. But there's a report in 1962, you can actually look it up, by the American Committee of Economic Development. It's called the Adaptive Program for Agriculture. They said they have a problem with the population. The thing was that the rural population is too dependent on food, they're well armed, and if they find out what we're doing, they can overthrow us. What are they doing that we might want to overthrow them? You can go figure, but so they had two choices, and the one that they chose, and this is actually, the stated sum up of it, the short, to deplete the economic success of the rural communities and bring them under our control through financial management. And they did that through a lot of banking system, marketing, getting them to buy certain things, give them 0% interest, and then things happened and they knocked it up like 20, 30%. Farmers lost their land, and depression came on. But one of the actual stated facts in there was, of their goals was to reduce the farm population by 60% in 5 years. It did take them a lot longer. But the reality is that farmers, which are less than 1% of the community today, this was deliberately done. So if you think about where the farmers are today and the health of our nation, there's clear evidence in reality, if you look at it all, that it's deliberately done. There's something much bigger than just the people. It definitely is. It's spiritual, if you really look at it. There's something much darker on it. To get into more physical stuff, my wife's more the person that she knows all the stats on that stuff. I'm the farmer. But in 1910, I don't know if you heard of the Flexner report, we used to have holistic universities, hospitals. We had homeopathic. At that time, there was 148 universities teaching all types of methods. And the Flexner report was one individual that went out, they said, go and look what we're doing. It's supported by the AMA, American Medical Association. Of course, it was to support them and through allopathy. But he went out and came back, said, we need to simplify it, and they standardized allopathy and got rid of anything with nature, anything of God's. So it was 148 universities. I think New York, I forgot how many universities taught homeopathic alone, which we use homeopathic. I believe in it. It took them down to 66. But while all that was happening, at the same time, we're watching the food system go downhill. I've seen a lot of charts and graphs through my days, looking at for 20-something years, and you're watching food go decline. You're seeing some things go up. Some of these things are like introduction of high fructose corn syrup, microwaves, whatever. But so this is one of USDA's charts, but if you look in 40 years ago from now, which we're already on a decline, and you pick a carrot, that carrot you'd have to eat 40 years ago, today you'd have to eat about at least 5 carrots to get the same amount of nutrition. So it's a stress on a nutritional void. You're processing calories, your stomach's working, but you're not getting it. But that's not even close to, if you look at the stats from what true farmers, regenerative farmers are studying, and looking at what, not just regular standardized, but going and picking up carrots from Whole Foods, from all these different farmers. They've done studies, the BFA has done, it's a Bionutrient Food Association, done studies from food around the world, and people chart exactly what they do. I was actually in that. We were doing it. We were raising a couple of vegetable crops. Happened at the very beginning of COVID. Our main business is meat, so our restaurants closed down. We're supplying. We couldn't get meat butchered, so we dropped out. But we still got all the stats, and we got to see all the research. But the cool thing was about that was cool and depressing in some ways, but the carrot you're buying at the store, even if it's organic, it's got less nutrients in it. It doesn't have nutritionally, it's not much higher than standardized conventional, but it's got less chemicals normally. It's not necessarily completely clean. Depends. There's a lot of small companies that, some of these guys are great Christians that support and put their food out there, and you'll find that food, but it's hard to find. You got to find which company they're selling to it, but it gets mixed up in Walmart maybe or something like that. But the people who are doing the best food, they were just regenerative, true to the root. And if you studied so if you want to know what like a true carrot is, say, like creation's waiting for the sons of man, sons of God, and what they would create, so creation's being held back, obviously, so we don't really know what it looks like. But there's a lot of, just to make it simple, that 1 carrot versus the 5 carrots, if you measured all the micro and the macronutrients as long as with the polyphenols and the compounds, majority of that stuff doesn't exist in the other carrots. So in reality, you can't really base it. You might say you have to eat several hundred, several thousand, but the thing is, it's not even true food. It's a food-like substance in many ways. Can your body even use it properly? Is it really what I would think God made that was pleasurable and would be like healing or medicine, possibly, which I can't say that. But so the deception of them purposely doing things is one thing, and there's a lot of stories of other stuff, but there's some other simpler lessons that even when you try to eat better, some of the most simple things that they try to make you do and they deceive you. If you think of, so if you're going and trying to make a choice in a store and you see enriched, what do people think when they see the term enriched? Is it something extra on top of that product, possibly? But, well, you can say it out loud, but you have my mic. I don't know how this works.
Well, we were taught one thing, but what we know is that enriched is actually the synthetic vitamins that our bodies can't really process.
It's a good answer, yes. And what they do is they take out, so originally, even in breads, and I can't tell you the name of the disease, they did this to grains, and they took out almost everything. And there's some disease, people are just getting outrageously sick right away. So they had to put some back, but they didn't put them all back. But the thing is, they put a synthetic version back. But even on top of that, they put back more stuff than actually should be on there. You can look at salt. Salt, they took out, most sea salts are like 80-something, 90 minerals. So they take out, they make it sodium, and then they put iodide back in. It's not iodine, it's iodide. It's not the same, but there's all these minerals missing. It's hard for your body to, your body's gonna sit there and it's like, wow, I got this overload of sodium. Like, there's nothing else with it. So it's throwing you out of balance. But it'll begin with that, the enriched foods. One of the things that, a huge misconception, and we've known about this, my wife right now is learning, like it's one of the biggest factors, she's going through a class right now, that's leading people into some major health crisis, is iron. In agriculture, I've never seen a reason to add it to anything. It's one of the most abundant minerals in the world. It's huge. There's no reason to add it. There's other minerals to add so you can move iron. Iron can get stuck in stuff, like in a plant. But they add it to everything. They add it to even the jabs. And when they add in the rich foods, like I think there was a bread one time called Iron Kids something. But when you test it, a lot of times the numbers are like 300-something% higher. And kids watch those science program. You could they showed, and we've read about this, and they showed you take a bag of cereal, shake it up, like put it like in a Ziploc bag or something, let it dissolve, and then get a magnet, and you see all these iron shards, like just solid iron shards all over it. But that stuff gets caked up in your system. If you can't move it, it causes all types of oxidation stuff, which is accidents with oxygen, which is a long process. I'm not going to pretend to understand everything about it. I understand enough. I learned a long time ago from a guy, Malcolm Beck, my father, my teacher in organics. Keep it simple, silly. The KISS method. They use another term, but that's me.
Fred, I'm not going to lie to you, brother. We've been on this food journey for a while, and you have sufficiently scared us.
Well,
what are we going to do about this, Fred?
Well, there's one like this. So this was really big during the COVID times. Like, how many people started possibly supplementing with D3? Are they wearing D3, D2, D3? They thought they weren't getting enough sunlight. They showed there were some positive effects of it. But the purpose was that they did that because they try to tell us that the sun gives cancer, the sun's dangerous. If your body's out of balance, it can't take certain stress. Sun can be a stress, just like anything can be a stress if you have too much of one thing, too much water. But if you're healthy, you can take plenty of sun. There's people we've met people in Virginia that have allergic reaction to the sunlight. I don't know if you've heard about that. So Amber's teacher right now, her consultant, she had this disease. She went through the whole program where you shut off things in your body and restart things, and now she can go out in sunlight all she wants. But sunlight gives us the correct form of vitamin D, which is a hormone. It regulates so many things in our body. And if we don't get that, and we're getting the vitamin D3, D2, D3, normally it's D3, and it's normally in milk products. That synthetic version by itself, which I don't think it's a hormone, maybe it's a version of a hormone, but for one, it blocks you actually making proper melanin in D3, and two, it actually causes renal potassium wasting disease, which directly destroys your kidneys. So there's a lot of supplement stores that actually took this and threw it away. We had it, we threw it away, and when we learned this, it's actually really bad for you, but everybody thinks it's great, and it's in your milk products. And I've seen it before. We don't buy much milk because we normally try to have our own milk, but it's like, oh, great, it's the same price. This one's got D3. That's good, right? I've done it.
Yeah, I don't want you to run out of time. What are we going to do about this problem, Fred?
We're getting there.
All right.
I think. I want to scare y'all. No, I'm going to show y'all there's a lot more deception. Like even you might say, yeah, we know there's glyphosate, we know there's all these sides they use in farming, and there's all these things, but we don't know that there's more hidden stuff than we've realized. Like some of the stuff fooled us. Like we didn't know about some of the stuff till pretty recently, at least the D3. The iron we knew was bad, but not that bad.
So this may be helpful, because Matt keeps saying, what are we going to do? Because I feel like you have a lot to offer. This might be the first time you've had an audience where we're like, no, we're so with you. Like you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. You can scare us more, but I feel like we're already like, we know God wants to redeem it. And I feel like God, it sounds like part of you guys' passion is to partner with God as he redeems all of this. And so just so you know, if you're trying to get us on board, like I think we're all like, let's do this thing. We are so convinced.
Well, let me see. I'm trying to get.
Yeah. Like from a place of excitement for you, because I think you do have to spend probably about 2 hours.
There's actually, I thought of one story that I heard this from a friend of mine a year ago, and this is so dramatic. This is in farming, but put in perspective, like when people trust their doctors completely, like, oh, whatever they say they're gonna do. This is a farmer I know, and he did this. He farms like me for the last like 20 years or so, but he's telling me they have a much bigger farm than we do, quite a bit bigger, and so Virginia Tech. They're like the top people. We're gonna, whatever they say, we're gonna do. And he was giving us a story, something they told to do. So they're doing cattle. It's like you have to plant corn. You got to put silage. And when you put silage away, you pack the silage. You put it in a bin. You put chicken manure on it. You pack more. You put more chicken manure on it, and you do that. And that wasn't working so well. So the next year, he told them, "I want you to do this and put nitrogen fertilizer on it." So not only were they getting sick as they're doing this, every single one of their cows got sick. Yeah. He's like, "But we believed it because these are the specialists." Yeah. So like we don't. There's a lot of good doctors, but there's a lot of them that come out and they realize there's something wrong with this. I know a lot of personal friends that are like nurse practitioners and stuff, and they're not happy with everything, but they can kind of still be the light in there. Some of them, they wonder if they should leave and do something else eventually, but there are also more alternatives. Where am I trying to go? I did want to go, so the good news, I guess, I'm going to skip some stuff because I got too much to say, and this is dwindled down. I wanted to go to the book of Romans chapter 8. You're probably familiar with that. That's something that's kind of been dear to my heart and something I've been trying to figure out. And I think that's something that Matt can tell me if I'm wrong, Kirsten. Anybody can tell me if I'm wrong. A lot of mature people. You're probably more mature spiritually than I am. I don't know. When I first came here, like I had a lot of confusion. Religion can really confuse you. There's a lot of things, and they have a really sneaky way of like making it work. I mean, you can go there and like, that doesn't quite work, but I want it to work because there's some big promise. Like, it's so much easier. But the cool thing is, even though it might seem like there's more responsibility on me, it brings me a lot of joy because I got something. I got part in this. So, I'm going to just start at verse 18. For I consider that our present sufferings cannot even be compared to the glory that will be revealed to us. For the creation eagerly waits for the revelation of the sons of God. For the creation was subjected to futility, not willingly, but because of God who subjected it, in hope that the creation itself will also be set free from the bondage of decay into the glorious freedom of God's children. For we know that the whole creation groans and suffers together until now. Not only this, but we ourselves also, who have the first fruits of the Spirit, groan inwardly as we eagerly await our adoption, the redemption of our bodies. For in hope we were saved. Now hope that is seen is not hope, because he who hopes for what he sees. But if we hope for what we do not see, we eagerly wait for it with endurance. And I'm not picturing like something physical and saying that doesn't apply, and this is just a spirit, but I'm hoping I see a physical future. But one thing that I haven't caught, and it's a beautiful story in creation, here where it says in verse 22, for we know that the whole creation groans and suffers together until now. And I've realized that Jesus did a lot more when he came than I originally thought he did. And the sons and daughters are already here, but we don't really understand what it is that we're supposed to do. But I think we're figuring it out. And the cool thing is, in agriculture, I've seen a lot more men teaching, and they're adding a lot more scripture to the agricultural lessons, and they're talking in a way where we're going to fix this. We're not going to wait for it. We're actually going to do this. We're going to regreen the deserts. We're going to do everything. We know what to do. But yeah, it's great news. So, and this is an interesting story too, because I love God's timing. And my best time in prayer is out in the land, on my knees. I just felt like I'm not one in a building. I'm comfortable with that. And there's a day that I prayed differently. Not that I was reading this, but I went out, and there's burdens, there's hard times, and not that it was that rough, but it's like I want more. And I was praying, and I was asking God to let creation know that I'm here, I'm trying. And the cool thing was, although I haven't been here many Wednesdays, I've listened to almost every single one. You guys were talking about this trip to Europe, and y'all went, and you're talking about y'all were places, and the land felt y'all. And it's like, I've never heard of that. And I was like, I was like, I should go and pray every little square inch of my land, like fill me. But it's something. But I thought that was really cool. Like, wow, I've met the other side. I've met people that have seen the opposite of that. But I've never heard of anybody seeing, and I've never thought about it. Why could the land not feel already? It says until now. So this is present. This is past. I did want to get into, yes, some of the positive things. Some of the things you see glory in God. Some of the miraculous things. We make positive results in the land. I'm pretty sure nobody ever has heard of quorum sensing. So it's like, for now. It's like signaling. So when you have a positive reaction on the land, so there's like the seeds of native grasses and the forages can pop back up. They're sitting there waiting. So that's really cool. But not only that, there's bacteria and biology that you can go and test and you won't find it. But when there's the right quorum sense, the right signaling, it just comes out of nowhere. It's just there. It's alive. Creation's waiting. And if you look at vineyards and orchards, stuff like today, it's like bare. And if you look at the pictures of the orchards and stuff in the old days, like where they're painting, they didn't have photography. You look, they're just full of flowers and stuff. So we've kind of gone backward, but it's coming back. People are like regreening the orchards. They're putting all this cultivation in there. They're running animals underneath. One of the things I figured out, we have a small little vineyard at our house, but I used to manage an 8-acre vineyard on a farm that was mainly livestock and stuff. and just like observing nature. And I converted the vineyard over to organic. It was a process. It took a couple years to do something, but we ran the cows around there, and the tree swallows, which are like acrobatic, they're related to the purple martins, they followed. And instead of going and trying to get rid of birds that were eating all our fruit and putting all this netting, and every 2-3 years, it'd be like $3,000 worth of netting and a lot of man hours covering it up. It's like the netting they're using in round bells. And it's a lot of trash. It's a big pile of trash. The tree swallows came in, and they're territorial. We didn't do any netting. I was like, let's hold off. We might not, because these are territorial. We didn't have to do it. So the first thing I did when we did a little quarter-acre vineyard, or half-acre vineyard at our house, was we put a couple of tree swallow boxes. And found that, too, you can run chickens, but everybody loses them to hawks. When the tree swallows around, you won't even lose them to hawks. So you have a vineyard and you're spraying, and you have all this plastic in there, and you're protecting it, and you kind of follow its design. Next thing you know, you got, birds, you're running sheep underneath. And it's a cool design. I found this fascinating. I took a conference we did in the Valley a few years ago with Independent Ag, and these are actually another group of guys that their top book 10 references the Bible. But we were talking about the disappearance of grassland birds. And I'll tell you the difference between how government thinks and how the people that are saving the world are thinking, or going forward with it. So a group of animals that were running several hundred cows on acreage, and you're doing mob grazing, you run them on small spots, make a reaction. You're like trying to, almost like you're working out. You hit the land for a short amount of time it might be 500,000 up to 1 million pounds per acre for a short time, then move them. It's like what the bison would do. So it forces the land, it's like a workout. You get in to respond. So you have native birds. They can go out there and measure, and there's all these little nests of birds. So when you run 500 cows in an acre or two, what do you think is going to happen? The grass is still, there's like little grass things up, and there's nests. The cows skip it. That's like cows standing really close together. And they're working together. Why would the cow not? They got to be bumping each other. And they measured it, and I don't think on that one group, I don't think they got a single nest, because they found everyone they could, and I think they were all still there. But the government wants to come in and pay people to not use the land at certain periods, and it's a pretty good amount of money for just not farming. Well, that's not abundant, for one. We're not even using the land properly. But if we just follow his design, the animals work together. But we had all the pictures and all that stuff, and that was really neat. But I had another one, but I don't think I have. Well, if I have time, I'll come back. Maybe I can. I think I can. I still got plenty of time. This is something that I've seen. This is kind of going into, God's abundance. So what we might think, well, let's say this. So has anybody ever heard, like, the organic farming, regenerative farming, we can't feed the world? We can't feed the world. Well, I've had people that, we've done markets for 20-some years. We don't want to do it so much more, but in Texas we did a lot of markets. We've had people come and argue with us and tell us we're like destroying the world for trying to do organic, because everybody's going to starve. But the reality is, well, the perspective itself is ridiculous, because if we're saying we follow God's design, there's something defective and we're going to starve. The reality is a lot of abundance. But let's say you take a corn plant, and most people have seen a corn plant, I would think, and you've seen maybe 2 or 3 ears on it. A lot of times there's like 2. So what if you could take that number and just like make it like way more? The possibilities are there. Personally, the most corn that we've ever grown in our house, most corn on one plant was 16. And we had that same year, we did some different things, and I had a bunch in like a quarter acre. I had like 6 on them, one had 12 on them, a bunch had other ones. But people said, there's some type of anomaly and something's wrong. And I was like, there's nothing wrong. The one that had the most, actually that seed fell the year before, and it was there in a good spot. It was just there waiting. And there's actually farmers that are going and planting seeds the year before. If the seed's healthy, it can actually take off, and actually it can be more productive. But The other seed we did was we gave it certain minerals. When that seed came out, just like a newborn baby, you want to get everything it can. It reached out and it can have all the minerals that it wanted, and it was able to thrive. But if you look at the average yield on corn, I think it's sometimes like 90, it's 100 and something. It might go up to 200 bushels per acre. So John Kemp, through advancing eco-agriculture, which is an cool Amish Christian guy, awesome guy. I look up to him just about more than anybody. But they wanted to see what could corn really do if it gave everything it could get. So you're thinking of your average is like maybe up to 200. So they did an eighth of an acre, and they put little lines. They put minerals through the water if they needed to give it any minerals. They would foliar feed if they needed to. They inoculated the seed. And they took that number and they multiplied by 8 then. They came up with 1,100 bushels per acre. So you're like, wow, I could grow 1 acre and have, that's God's abundance. And we don't even have any idea. What is a flower like? What does a flower smell like? The same guy I talked about, Malcolm Beck, earlier. I went to his garden one time and came to visit it, and it was in San Antonio, Texas. And when I went there, the Wizard of Oz, and you like the Munchkin, there's like these giant flowers and tomatoes. That was his place. I was like, whoa. He's been doing organic. He beat Texas A&M in studies on organic like 26 times. He proved that organics can out yield and out quality over anything that Texas A&M can do. And his place was like, that was probably 25 years ago. So what?
One time we had a conversation here, and a lot of what yields in nature, what happens in nature, in true nature, it exemplifies God's heart. And so I thought you were about to say, because I had read that flowers that grow in nurtured soil, like, just have a much more pungent smell. I didn't know if you were going to touch on that, but I clearly wanted to, because I think there's something deep and
I guess you
spiritual
could
there.
say it reveals his character, I would say. You can say as well, people don't realize like the effect of food. So if you have food and it's stressed, like you eat an animal that's got a thyroid problem or any other type of stress, you actually it can interact, but it depends what level you are. Let's say if you're very sickly and you just need protein, you can eat any protein, it's gonna be good for you. But if you're at a certain level, you're gonna be healthier, do more. But you don't necessarily want to eat stuff that has thyroid problems or certain stresses on it. It's got heart disease already. But so let's say that corn plant, like I talked about. So if you know what a refractometer is, what you need to do a vineyard, you squeeze the grape juice on it and you look in the light and you see and it gives you a number. So you could do the same thing with grass on a field. Farmers, well, not many people do it, but we do it with field, you can do it in corn, you can do it in tomato plants, you can do all these things. You're not measuring the fruit, you're measuring the leaves. So it's showing the efficiency of photosynthesis. It's actually measuring the bending of light, like you put your hand in water. So in salt water, it's going to bend more than it would in regular water. So when a plant gets over 12 bricks, in reality, if you're thinking about people when they garden, they're thinking about insects. So aphids, different things, like you're at a really weak bricks. Your plant is not very healthy. It might be like at a 4. When you start getting up to 6, you're not going to have that. The lantern fly, everybody's worried about. If you get up to like 8 or 10, it can't digest that anymore. If you get up over 12, that's where you might. Beetles are the worst. So like the Japanese beetles and that, they won't necessarily come in. They won't be attracted, but they can still eat and not die. They can still digest it, but they're not attracted. They're not just swarming in. But when you get over 12, that plant starts getting so efficient. It's like the cup flowing over in Christians, like the light shining. That plant will produce more energy than it can from the sun, and it puts it in the ground, and it takes it and it puts it in root exudates and turns it into humic acid. And other ones that are like weaker than that, they might put some sugars in the ground. The sugars last months, maybe a year. The exudates and the rhumic acids last for decades. So just like you changed the world, I mean, you felt the land, that corn plant can affect for generations of corn plants. Just by it becoming, so what can it, and when it gets to 12, it can keep going up in reality. I don't know what the limit is. and we won't see that for a while. Yeah.
We'll be on that corn for a minute. You were talking about putting minerals on it. When they do that, is that artificial minerals, synthetic or whatever?
The one that I was talking about, the high yield,
Yeah.
that's not synthetic, no. They're normally pulling that from different parts of nature, and they're just taking it, and most of that's actually biological. So you're taking biology, that stuff exists. You want to try to use it more of like a whole source, but it's like reduced and it's chelated so it doesn't oxidize. But I had another thought, but I'm kind of losing it here.
I asked that question to go back to the carrot. It takes me 5 carrots today to get what 1 carrot used to do years ago, right? But I need what's in a carrot, the vitamins and the minerals and everything. So now I substitute with a vitamin, mineral, a multi,
Yeah.
and that's synthetic again. Is it?
You can get real ones, like Cetaphil.
Yeah. You can get some, so.
Just to give you hope.
So like vitamin C, so synthetic vitamin C, citric acid is better than ascorbic acid. Ascorbic actually comes from high fructose corn syrup. But vitamin C, all vitamin C in nature has copper in it. And copper is extremely important. It's like one of the top defenses, magnesium, copper. But every piece of vitamin C has copper in it. And if you can get vitamin C as taken from cherries in a whole food source. And that's what we use now. And then the actual ascorbic acid too, it actually helps your body when you get excess iron in, it binds it where it can't get out. The artificial form, synthetic form, the one from the high fructose corn syrup. So you can get better vitamins, you just have to know what to look for. It's a little bit more expensive, but the other ones kind of can do harm. They're better than nothing depending where you are in life. Like if you were really sick and you have ascorbic acid, vitamin C, it's gonna give you a boost. But you wouldn't want to like take it long term or anything really. And it's not the best option. There's good, better, best, But
Okay.
When you were talking about the plants when they're proper, how they absorb the light better, they put energy into the ground, restoring like that full cycle. I was trying to think. A guy was explaining to me, a scholar friend of mine was explaining just the other week that, like, if you really get down to, like, the root of what they meant by sin, it was largely, like in the Bible, sin was largely just functioning outside of your intended design. And that word's used in practical word. They use it in other ways, like the idea in the Hebrew, but then in Greek, it's like when Jesus talks about, like, the salt losing its flavor, like it's lost its intended design, and it's good for nothing. And it's kind of that idea of, like, when things are functioning in their intended design, they absorb light energy better, they give it back better, they produce fruit better. It's like we are just, I forget, I'm rusty on the details now suddenly, but the idea was that word is used for us and for plants and for animals and for nature, and it's like variations of it, but it's all like, the idea was the root of sin is functioning in the wrong identity or purpose and losing your effectiveness.
yeah. And then I guess on sin, another word I would use a lot would be death. Like, so I was saying he asked about synthetic, and I thought the minerals, a lot of things they're using is biology. So biology is community. Like just like we get together and we can figure things out, there's a lot of biology in the ground, and the more diversity, it's stronger. But so the word biology is like a diversified life. And the opposite of that is antibiotic, which is anti-life. So like we learned gut health is so important. So I urge you, if you don't have to use antibiotics, don't, because the biggest thing for you to be healthy is a gut health, and you keep climbing, and if you take antibiotic, you just take a nosedive. It kills your gut, and you got to take probiotics and stuff. But you're finding if you keep learning, our diversity is like way depleted because there's antibiotics in foods, there's antibiotics that we take all the time. So we've dropped where our diversity is so low that we can't really function properly because we don't have, so just like the soil, it can create what's not there if there's enough diversity. If in your gut, so I did not know this. So you think of BPA, people have heard BPA and stuff like that. If you have the right diversity, have enough diversity, your body can take care and get rid of it. We can't, animals can make their own vitamin C. We can't, but if we have enough diversity, we can make our own vitamin C. The bacteria make it for us. So that's again on where we could be, like if we weren't like held back.
I actually want to pause on there because what's so exciting about what he's talking about, so BPA was something that was leaching from a lot of the plastics and linings and all that stuff. And at one point they said the human body cannot get rid of it. Like it was this sort of like, wah, wah. And then we found out, no, God is so good that even with the fall of man and us not living in the like perfect unity with him, that when we get in unison with him, because many of you guys know in here, many of us have taken gut journeys with the Lord of just getting back to his original design. When it's in simpatico with God, it can dump the things that originally man said it cannot be dumped. So that's like really exciting.
Well, it's trusting his design. We only know a little bit, like, so in nutrients and stuff, I believe there's over 5,000. We've barely touched, we don't understand what all these nutrients do. We just know that in their whole form, they're the best. And you're only gonna find a lot of them if they're actually growing well.
Hey, you also just said another really important point. You said the soil, because this is fascinating. The soil will start to create the things that it's deficient in when it starts to when it doesn't have to combat. You didn't say this, but what I had read was when it stops having to combat all the toxins and it's just it'll start to like create the things that it needs. Right? Isn't that kind of what you said? I don't want to make words in your mouth. Explain that a little bit. That's exciting.
Plants need energy. So we were taught for the longest time, people still believe that, not as much anymore, but that like the ground rest and all that stuff when you plow and it's just dead, there's nothing there. But you could think that'd be the same as like taking me and putting me in a room, like, oh, you need a rest, stay there a month, no food. The body's gonna die, good thing it can bounce back. But if it's got the energy it needs for one, if it's not stressed, but it depends, the thing is, it's about the amount of diversity. If you don't have, if it's got a very low diversity, it can't do a lot. It really is a thing of like a group of people, a group of believers, the body and arms of Jesus Christ, when it comes together, it can do things. So I think I said it's a men's group, but like if Mr. Phosphorus guy that fixes phosphorus is not there, it's like, hey, we can do it. You know, like there's a guy here that does plumbing, we don't know how to plumb, we can figure it out. Yeah. It takes a group. But community, it's to see the same things happen in nature as in humankind, the resemblances is fascinating to me. The good news, and I guess originally I wanted to do this, like it's getting in the springtime, I want to get people excited about gardening, homesteading. A lot of people complain, oh, the deer. But reality, you have to take control. Sadly, I wish when I first, so many farmers I knew in Texas that I can still get a hold of nowadays, and they were doing great. They're not doing so great anymore. They're doing side jobs. Most of the farmers I knew in Virginia that were at the markets, used to do markets and stuff, there's like one or two that are still going. Almost all of them stopped. They're all doing they're growing food for their own families, and it just didn't, it was like a fad, but now if you go to the market, it's like, it's food and music. So people aren't really supporting it. So if people even said, hey, where can I go and buy this? I have to think about it. I used to be able to point out a bunch of people. And we only do certain things. I'd love to do more, and I wish I can find people to do more. I think there are a lot of people that want to get back into it, but they can't get the support to do it. I know if you say, what can we do? One of the things, and I've taught classes on this, because in farming, you think in many ways, regenerative farming, holistic management, all stuff you're thinking of years beyond. So like every time I'm going to make a decision, what is that decision doing? It's one of the things that's get gifted me in spirituality. Like I'm not thinking for right now. I'm thinking this is affecting a lot of stuff because that's my everyday thinking. So if I go make a decision at a store and say I'm going to go buy celery, and there's organic and there's conventional, and like I said, maybe their celery is not much higher nutrition, but it's still a better choice. And maybe it was one of the farmers that did better. You can try to find companies that are doing better products, and you have to do research. There's certain stores that have better names for stuff, but it is kind of deceiving. Same thing as like, what's really a good egg? Cage. What does it mean? Cage-free, free range, whatever. It's very deceiving. But if you go,
Oh, you
buy
talking
that,
to the wrong crowd. We got the eggs dialed in here for you.
well, there you go.
This is egg central, baby.
Okay, good. I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah.
But still, maybe in the wintertime. I don't know. But you say when you buy that, you're affecting the farmers. There's a book called Tomato Land I read years and years ago, and it's about tomatoes grown in Florida and how they grow and all that birth defects and all the children born with like extra limbs and arms and stuff like that. It's real. And I've met farmers that I got hay from. They told me they know of farmers in Virginia. He was actually pointing at neighbors, and they have this fancy house, and they have somebody just farm it, and they put that biosludge out. They've had cows born with another head on the side of its body after 2 years of sludge with all the pharmaceuticals in it because it doesn't break down.
Fred, you waited until the last 2 minutes to bring up 3-headed children and cows. I have feelings about that. At least I could have done something in the first 3 minutes.
All I'm
minutes.
getting at is like that decision has a compounding effect. It's over and over, and it comes back to you. And you could say it's almost forever, whatever that's going to affect. I don't know how far. Like there's going to be things that change in the future, but there's way more than us. It's the same thing. Like if you are generations, like 4 or 5 generations, it's almost like the curse. How your parents did it, how good they took care of their bodies, how bad took care of their bodies, and the way you eat. If you're having children, especially before they're born, the eggs and all that stuff, you're going to slightly change the way they are. It's not as much. People are. It's deceiving to say that somebody's going to get sick because people in their family had heart disease or had diabetes. They're doing that and giving you fear. Like 97% of that is still your choice, the way you live, and all that stuff. Yeah. The parents, and there is a lot to the young age and how the child's brought up because there's certain things that happen when you're very young. But.
So just because the worship team is coming into practice tonight in about 5 minutes, what do you want to leave us with for the charge to move forward? We are terrified right now that there's no hope, Fred. Where is our hope? What are we doing?
So actually, I could say a few things, but I think there was the last men's meeting that you put it on my head, and this could be a conversation. We don't have time for that though, but telling us how we all want to be our own king. And for me, I wanted to say something, but I don't know if I'm right or wrong. I still don't actually know if I'm completely right or wrong. But it's for me because nature's like hit me down sometimes. I don't want to be in control because I can't. I need something bigger than me to take this because I've been put down too many times. But thinking about that and thinking about, you talked about Genesis last week, and I think about Genesis a lot and the tree of knowledge and good and evil. So I'm going somewhere. But how would it be bad to understand what good and evil is? It's kind of, for me, it's like, wow, I know something. I know what good and evil is. Well, how does that make, just because I ate from that tree? But I think because we knew that, we're not living by the Spirit anymore, and we're taking reasoning. We're justifying things that we do because reality, we're thinking of the flesh. And reality, like I say, sons of God, I think we can do a lot more than we think we can if we just follow the Spirit. Because if we go, the reality is when we go somewhere, and let's say I go to a store, it's like, I want that candy bar. The Spirit's saying, don't eat the candy bar. But I'm going to justify and say, I worked hard this week. I want that candy bar. We do that with all these things that we're addicted to. And we think we deserve it for some reason, or we put some reasoning behind it. So I'm thinking to give God kingship over something, we have to decide in every aspect of our life that I can't be king over that. I can't be king over that. And he has the answer. And if we do that, we're going to mess up. But we can get further, and he's going to lead us in the right direction. And I don't have time to say much more.
So is it okay if I add like something at the very end
Yeah.
here? So obviously we are all on board and like God's going to restore all this. And you definitely are you've got a lot of information around the good, the bad, the ugly. And then like, yay, you're doing the work to make this good. I do just want to share that I'm glad you brought in the supernatural at the end because because we are kingdom now people, he's got it all covered, and that the things you're talking about, there's so much evidence that you have to be like, this is factually going on. And it's going to go on until everyone's heart is aligned with the Lord, right? And so you guys are working it to where you guys have good fruit, and then some of us are like, we're doing our best with the information we have out there. And then what's great about his kingdom, and I just say this because let this just inspire you, like he covers it though. He covers it because I have seen the blood, like literally the blood of people under a microscope that do not eat well, but because they found the peace of God, and it is not a license to go eat poorly, but like it is the most beautiful blood ever. And I like literally have seen that. And then I've seen the folks who eat well, but they're just stressed out. They're worried Christians, and it's like not pretty. And so I say that because I'm like, wow, God, you're that good that in this fallen state where we're not all on board yet, and like we've got like the Lyssys who are doing their part, and there's various folks who are trying to get in unison with the Lord. He still got this way to like, as we are in his spirit, as we are spending time with him, he literally heals our blood. And so I feel like I say that because it's something where we can easily go like, yeah, well, we're choosing the lesser of two evils sometimes, and what you were saying, and sometimes you're choosing the lesser of two evils. In like this one, and I'm using quotes, reality, but there's the truth of God is that until it's fully restored, he has us covered when we're in it. Because that's why he says, spend time with me, let me restore you, and I don't want to give myself a license to just eat poorly. I want to do my best, but I also know the most important thing I can do is to stay in his peace, because in that he heals. We've literally seen cancer healed because people just started worshiping God and not changing their diet, which I'm passionate about diet.
I think I said a little bit of that to you earlier, maybe.
Yeah.
But so
Yeah.
as we grow as children, but as we're adults, he expects a little bit more from us. So you could say, if ignorance is bliss, then knowledge is responsibility. If we're following the Lord, we're just going to naturally if we don't know we're children, he's going to take care of us. But spiritually, yes, Amber's doing this stuff with the blood stasis showing like how blood can really deformed. Spirit does change a lot of that. What she's learning is that even though people can eat better and everything else, they're not completely healed if they're spiritually, if there's stuff in their past. It's stress. Yeah. Nutritional deficiencies is stress. Financial stuff is stress. Spiritually, it's stress. Your body can only handle so much and depletes your energy really fast. But I do believe, it's kind of like a story you tell people, like, if you don't have a lot of money and you're not very smart, you can go to McDonald's and ask the Lord to bless it. But if I got plenty of money, a fancy car, to go to McDonald's and ask him to bless it, like, come on. You know better. You know what I'm getting at? You have a certain responsibility, though. We still have to use our arms, and we have to use our wisdom. He doesn't give us wisdom for nothing. But I totally agree with the spiritual part, that he is still, it's a big aspect. You can't have one without the other, I think. The spiritual is more important, but it's not the abundance that he wants us to have alone. So, yeah. All right, well, Matt, you want to pray? I don't know.
You can pray.
Lord Father, we thank you for this time. I thank you for these people that just coming here, my brothers and sisters just listening to me. And I ask that we somehow take this and we just keep growing with you. Lord, I thank you for what you taught us. I ask you to come up with solutions together as we just give everything to you. We just give up. We humble ourselves. In Jesus' name we pray.
Amen.
Thank you, Fred.